All right, friends, it's T and I'm back, man, with the with the bomber cloud himself, JasonBlaha, strength and bomber cloud fitness, man. Yeah, man, let's review this video. Look at that dad bod. He's looking cuter than ever. All right. Why slow negatives aren't that important? Okay, man, I haven't watched this video. I simply review these videos watching them with you because I just cannot stand to watch the same video over again with JasonBlaha speaking in it, man. It's crazy to watch this guy more than once. But okay, let's see what he has to say. Why slow negatives aren't that important.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha.
And I'm sure you guys have your own opinions as well. You know, I'm just, look, I'm giving out some facts, sometimes opinions, facts, some information, you know. It's not about debunking. I'm simply just putting out the true facts. He could put out his own facts, JasonBlaha. He has the right to say whatever he wants on his channel. So do I.
Here and today I'm going to say something that a lot of people aren't necessarily going to like, and that's this focus many people have on, oh, I need to do really slow eccentric reps. Feels like basically just an excuse to train lazy. Meaning...
Okay, off the bat, he says, to train with slow eccentric movements. Look, I just posted a shitload of information from PubMed and CBI in my community section about eccentric movements. And we talked about it before on my channel. I've posted more stuff. I've done some videos about eccentric movements. The fast and slow are pretty much the same. You're going to get the same outcome, whether you're doing slow eccentrics or fast eccentrics. The only difference between doing a slow eccentric is because you may not be able to manage the weight and you could cause a severe injury. That's the reason why you do a slow eccentric, because you're probably moving much heavier. I can't tell you exactly what people are doing in the gym. They could get injured even with lightweight, so it depends. Remember, the eccentric can be injurious. It is injurious. You're getting micro injuries, but you can cause a severe injury weakening yourself on the eccentric. It is associated with strength, but it isn't associated with strength, power, speed, and performance right away in the beginning. You understand me? It comes much later down the line after. Look, even the OHP push press, let's say people online, like, you know, Wolverine, Dr. Rackpulls, all these guys before, they're doing push press OHP. Okay. The concentric may not be the most important for that strength. It's not the most important because they're bouncing it off their chest. They call it push press off the chest. So they're bouncing it up into the air. But they're able to still do that heavier because it's the down force. If you notice when they're lowering the weight, there's a pull stretch on the muscle on the shoulders. But of course, there's the load. How should I put this? You're able to take on the load because it's across both shoulders. You understand? Your chest, your shoulders, your arms. Unlike isolation movements, you could be doing isolation movements. It could be dangerous. I don't know, depending on the lowering part. So it could be dangerous. But you know, on the negative, eccentric negatives are associated. They're more superior for getting strength gains and strength, hypertrophy, and power and speed. It's all on the eccentric movement. Trust me, it's all on eccentric. Has nothing to do with concentric whatsoever. But people think it does because it looks cool when it goes up in the air. But it's the eccentric that is actually giving you more force production, more strength, and more power. Yes.
The evidence for really slow eccentrics actually causing any additional muscle growth is pretty low.
That's a lie. It's associated with hypertrophy. Everybody knows that. He says no growth. What are you talking about? Man, do I have to prove everything on my channel? Like, come on, this is ridiculous stuff, bro. Like I said, I posted a load of stuff now, some new stuff in my community section here. They even talk about this muscle tenderness and peak torque changes after downhill running following a prior bout of isokinetic eccentric exercise. And then there's isotonic eccentric exercise. isokinetic eccentric exercise. They never talk about concentric stuff. The majority of stuff online they talk about is always eccentric. Physiological and neural adaptations to eccentric exercise, mechanism consideration for training. Yeah, that's another one. Non-uniform muscle adaptations to eccentric exercise and the implications for training and sport. The effects of eccentric versus concentric resistance training on muscle strength and mass in healthy adults. Systematic review and meta-analysis. The aim is to systematically review what was determined in eccentric exercise is superior to concentric exercise in stimulating what? Gains in muscle strength and mass. So I don't know what Blaha is trying to pull here. Even when they tell you chronic adaptations, listen to this. This is the most important. Probably people don't even understand this. Chronic adaptations. You could get chronic adaptations to eccentric training, a systematic review. That's why my training changed in my video. I say I'm doing unconventional exercises, but I mean, according to what people are doing in the gym, they're really conventional exercise. They are conventional when it comes to eccentric. They're unconventional to you guys because you're just not doing them because you're lazy. So, but you have to look good in the gym. You are all so busy trying to look good in the gym that you cannot focus on trying to get more adaptations. But you're adapted to your exercises. It's not about looking good. So chronic adaptation is eccentric training. Resistance training is an integral component. They talk about a bunch of stuff here. There's objective methods, and then the conclusion. What is the conclusion in that? Eccentric training is a potent stimulus for enhancements in muscle what? Mechanical function and muscle tendon unit, MTU. Morphological and architectural adaptations. The inclusion of eccentric loads not constrained by concentric strength appears to be superior to traditional resistance training in improving variables associated with strength, power, and speed performance. So I don't know what he's talking about, bro. Even here, eccentric exercise mechanisms, the effects when used as training regime and training adjunct. Exercise-induced muscle damage, a potent mechanism for the repeated bout effect. We know that associated with hypertrophy, man. I don't know what section. I would have to keep looking through all the sections to explain all these things to you, okay? Power loss attenuated following second bout of high-intensity eccentric contractions due to the repeated bout effect. Protection of rate, torque, and velocity development. Well, the repeated bout effect is an adaptation process, too, as well, to protect you from building any more muscle. That's the whole point. I think people don't even understand how that works. So, yeah, they talk about... It's associated, look, skeletal muscle remodeling in response to what? Eccentric versus concentric loading, morphological, molecular, and metabolic adaptations. You can read them. They go on forever. They talk about hypertrophy. It's associated with hypertrophy, and a whole bunch of stuff. Mechanism of eccentric contractions induce muscle damage and nutritional supplementation for mitigating it. Increased muscle force does not induce greater stretch. Induce damage to calf muscles during work. Match heel drop exercise. Man, need I go on more? Cyclical eccentric stretching induces more damage and improved subsequent protection than stretch isometric contractions and limb. The repeated bout effect can occur without mechanical and neuromuscular changes after a bout of eccentric exercise. That's true too. The protective effect. Protection from muscle damage in the absence of changes in muscle mechanical behavior. My God, how much? I don't even know how much is in here. The magnitude of muscle strain does not influence serial sarcomere number adaptations following eccentric exercise. In general, accepted that eccentric exercise, when performed by a muscle that is unaccustomed to the type of contraction, results in delayed onset muscle soreness. A prolonged exposure to eccentric exercise leads to disappearance of the signs and symptoms associated with DOMS. Eventually, yeah, when you get adapted to it. Although the mechanisms underlying, and then they talk about a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't think I need to go further, man. It's just there's so much stuff here. Repeated bout effect. This too is repeated bout effect. Uh, eccentric contractions, force, remodeling. Here, they tell you a phase, eccentric phase leads to more powerful activation of genes responsible for skeletal muscle remodeling. Example, hypertrophy than other types of training that emphasize a concentric or isometric phase. Listen to what they say here. Paradoxically, exercise training that includes a substantial eccentric phase, which I'm doing now, leads to a more powerful activation of the genes responsible for skeletal muscle remodeling. Hypertrophy than other types of training that emphasize a concentric or isometric phase. That there just says it all, man. So yeah, here's another one. I don't know what this one is. Concentrically, respectively, contractions. Like I said, you could go here, you could read these. I just posted these. Unaccustomed eccentric exercise. They always say unaccustomed. They never say custom stuff. Unfamiliar as well. Unfamiliar, predominantly eccentric exercise frequently results in what? Muscle damage. Okay? They never say chronic eccentric or concentric exercise. It's going to lead to that. But it's usually things that you're unfamiliar with. When you want to bring back this damage after the initial phase, it has to be unfamiliar, unaccustomed to bring it back. To bring it back. All right? Anyway, let's go back to this video.
Plenty of the best bodybuilders around the world for the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years, 60 years, haven't particularly cared about these things. And this is the demographic that...
They didn't care? They probably didn't think about it. They're on steroids, bro. They're building fake muscles and strength. Why the fuck would they give a shit some fucking drug addict? Why would he care?
Cares about muscle growth the most, and I'm not saying all people who train don't care about.
Let me explain something to you. A natural person is better off doing the best of the best of training, which could get them where they want to go. That's why they're always complaining and crying and everything about, steroid users and newbie gains and all this bullshit, because your training is all geared listening to a drug addict like JasonBlaha, who's the shittiest coach in the world that knows absolutely nothing about muscle growth or strength. He doesn't know anything about strength training or muscle growth. He just knows to lift a heavy weight. That's about it. He's stupid. He doesn't concern himself with what is truly causing the strength for that force to go up, or what is really going to cause you hypertrophy and a bunch of other things.
Muscle, because they generally do. Right? They generally do. But as far as eccentrics go and real world examples, it's relatively...
It is superior to all training, eccentric training, like it said in PubMed. They didn't lie to you. They've made study after study after study on groups, on people, and everything on the eccentric movement and concentric. And the conclusion is eccentric movement is superior to concentric in every way. In every goddamn way. And it's, this, it's instinctual. You already know when you're lifting the weight, eccentric is going to be superior in every way, because it's the lengthening effect, the stretching that's going to cause something to happen in the coupling system.
Scarce, right? And I've seen many people who focus excessively on eccentrics who are really under-muscled. They're really small. They don't get...
That's a lie. They're not focused on the eccentric. It's because they're adapted. They're not moving to unfamiliar or unaccustomed things. That's why JasonBlaha too is accustomed to what he's doing. He's an idiot. He doesn't know to do unfamiliar, unaccustomed things so that he can get new adaptations. You get a new adaptation when you're unaccustomed or doing things that you're unfamiliar with.
Development from it.
That's how it works.
I mean, in a perfect example, everyone who's watched all my back work for the past 10 plus years, they're like, oh, you never control your eccentrics on your lat work.
You don't. You got a kyphosis back. Your back is kyphosis. It's not big. You have a disease. How could you tell people, oh, I have a disease and look, I have a big back, training my back because I have a disease called kyphosis. Give me a break, man. This is ridiculous. This is the shittiest coach in the world. He does the exact same movements, the exact same weights over and over again. You know he's adapted. He's adapted. There's no more adaptations. Zero adaptations.
You're never going
And he's a drug addict. You could do anything and get pumped with glycogen in there, taking testosterone.
to build a big back, but you guys just saw my back there. Just kind of pointing out.
Yeah, build a big phony back. Then why do you have no front? If you have such an amazing back, look at you standing there. Your back must be small because judging by your shoulders and your chest and everything, you look tiny. You look like a little man there, a talking doll sitting up there.
I have never done slow eccentrics at all for my lat work, and yet my back is my biggest body part. So that
Man, again, why are you doing slow as opposed to doing fast eccentrics? Rapid to slow. It's all dependent. Maybe you don't want to get injured, okay?
That's what I mean by examples of anecdote. And I'm obviously not the biggest or the strongest or the most jacked guy in the world by any.
Look how he's just throwing the weight up on his legs. He's so focused on the concentric without any eccentric. He just whoop up in the air, up in the air. I see this all the time. People use this machine for the quads, and they don't understand that the most of the attention is on the knee. That's why you have to stretch your legs out on that machine. I put the chair all the way back to the last fucking thing because I'm trying to lay backward as far back as I could get. And what I do is I put the thing between under my feet. I extend my knees really far out, way past the seat, because I want to be in a type of laying position because I want the quads to do the work and not my knees. But most people sit where their knees are touching the edge of the seat, their knees, and all the tension is on the knee. And the quads are not truly getting stretched. They're not getting stretched. You understand me? The whole point is the down force to get the stretch, not the up force. Everybody thinks, well, look, I'm going to do a heavy stack and I'm just going to do the concentric movements. The whole point to get an adaptation is in the stretch. It's not in the concentric fucking movement, bro. Get it? You're gonna get fuck all. You may be able to do the whole stack on there, but you're gonna destroy your knees in the process, trust me. And you're just gonna look good in the gym, like a yo-yo. And then you can't figure out why the guy over there who's leaning all the way out in the stretch position, his quads are fucking getting fucking massive and yours are still the same, fucking lifting that stupid goddamn heavy weight like an asshole.
Means, and I'm closing in on 50 years old. But for me personally, I have always found that my back grows extremely well.
You're closing on 50? I'm closing on 60, bro. I'm older than you. I look better than you.
Well, if I don't care at all about the eccentrics, I don't put 1 second of thought into it. I just focus on the.
Because you're a loser, that's why. You're a stubborn loser, and everybody sees you that way, Jason. They see you. They see you how they see you.
Stretch and focus on getting stronger on my back exercises, whether it's weighted pull-ups, different rows with barbells, dumbbells, right? I just focus on my rep strength. And yet,
He focuses on his rep strength. He's focused on getting better at lifting. That's all he's focused on. He's not focused on getting more natural adaptations, increasing your natural physical strength. You understand me? Yeah, he's not focused on that at all. He's just focused on some chemical strength to lift something heavy.
my back has always grown extremely well. So again, you have to question where people get this from. And again, you watch many of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. And many of them didn't seem to...
The greatest bodybuilders of all time, the greatest drug addicts of all time, yeah, I've watched them, yes. And guess what? When they're off their drugs, they're nobody. They're nobody. They become nobody. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he become nobody off his drugs. Nobody. He always needs the drugs to be somebody.
care at all. Some of them do, some of them don't. But it doesn't seem to be correlated in any way with being a great bodybuilder. the science.
Isn't exercise supposed to be healthy? Then why is it such an unhealthy sport? Because it's drugs. Drugs is unhealthy.
Scientific literature is relatively scarce, showing many benefits, particularly for really slow ones. Some of the stuff that looked at the slower ones found that if you go too slow, less muscle growth was caused.
If you go too slow, less muscle growth is caused. That doesn't grow muscles. It causes a relative amount of damage to the muscle fiber, the eccentric. What are you talking about? It causes a stretch and there's some damage. There's some micro tears. I can't tell you how many micro tears you're getting. You could be getting a lot, a minimum, small amount, a big amount, less amount. It all depends. It's all relative, man. Can you get an adaptation in an adapted state? Yes, if you do something you're unfamiliar with that you haven't done before. You could get that. Yes, you can.
Okay? So think about that for a minute. Why do people have this idea? I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, because slow eccentric.
Notice how he's doing everything concentric, how he throws everything up in the air. You understand me? Like, again, I'm not saying that something is not being worked there, something is not being done, but very minute. There's very minute stuff going on. He's just throwing the weight up in the air. He's just like flying it. Just like he did there on the quad extension there. He just was like throwing it up in the air and letting it low and just letting it fall down by itself, like letting it fall down. That's why you're not building any shoulders here. If you do the reverse on cables, if you pull down the cable will pull you back up. And so there's more tension on the myofibrillar, causing more of these micro tears, these micro injuries, and then resulting in more strength and more power and speed and stuff and growth and hypertrophy. Yes. But if you just keep throwing them up in the air, it's nothing really going on there. There's more fatigue. You get more fatigued on the concentric exercises than you would on the eccentric. That's why you could do more eccentric and get more out of your exercises if you know how to manipulate it. If you don't know how to manipulate eccentric, then I suggest you go and find out.
It can make you really sore, right? They can make you really sore, much sorer than regular training. A lot of people then say, oh, so it must be doing something. But soreness and DOMS.
There could be some soreness. It depends. It's all relative to soreness. Sometimes it can be very heightened. Sometimes it cannot. Sometimes it can go away and you can still be exercising. There's no soreness. You could be doing eccentric movements. But are you getting anything out of it? You're adapted.
Isn't associated necessarily with muscle growth either.
Soreness associated with muscle growth? You want to know what's associated with muscle growth? Food. And these micro injuries are associated with muscle growth. That's what's associated with it, yeah. That's kind of the basis. You can watch a science channel. They'll tell you, you get these micro injuries, boom, it's going to repair them all. It's going to get stronger, boom, da, 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 da. They tell you. Yeah, they're not lying, man. They even show visual effects of video of some guy fucking doing pull-ups and getting micro injuries in his muscles.
So therein lay the problem. I think that's part of it. Number two, I think a lot of it has to do with people just trying to find ways to train lazier. Because like, man, I just don't want to lift a heavy weight for a lot of reps. Right?
I don't want to lift a heavy weight for a lot of reps. You're going to be lifting heavy in doing concentric exercises. It's going to make your concentric exercise a lot easier the more negatives you add. Let's say you add a bunch of negatives, eccentrics. Well, it's going to increase your strength on the concentric. It's automatic. I know this because I've tried it before. I couldn't lift certain things. They were too heavy. So I started doing the majority of the same exercise, but in the concentric negatives. When I went back to do, the eccentric negatives, when I went back to do the concentric, I was able to do a really heavy weight. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even train for it. So there you go. That is what's giving you the majority of your force production in your concentric exercise. It really is the eccentric. It is. You're still getting something even in the deadlift. Even if you are throwing the deadlift on the ground, you're still getting somewhat of an eccentric movement there. There is some damage even in the concentric because the weight is heavy.
I want to do that. That's hard work. So then they're like, if I just go slower, it forces me to use a much lighter weight, and then, which is fine. I mean, if you want to train strict to use a lighter weight, by all means, right? Like notice here, obviously on my incline benching, soft touch, everything under control, I'm repping 225 with a wide grip, but still, I mean, fine, control the weight. Controlling a weight and using stricter form is perfectly fine, but that's not what slow eccentrics are. Slow eccentrics is perfectly fine, but that's not what slow eccentrics are. Slow eccentrics force you to really go lighter, and you're missing a lot of the concentric benefits.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't force you to. Oh, man, this guy, you could actually lift heavier doing partial eccentrics. You can lift heavier than you could on the concentric. That's the whole point, but you want to look good in the gym.
Okay? And here's the other thing. A lot of stuff like that people start worrying about, they're like...
Here's the thing with the negative eccentric. Let's say your bench press, let's say you could only bench press 2 plates. You can bench press 2 plates. Okay. So you set up the bar where it just drops below your neck or your chest area, where it's not going to touch your chest. You set up the blocks. There's a bunch of blocks there. You set them up. Okay. So you grab like, I don't know, 315 pounds, which you're unaccustomed to doing. You've never done it before, maybe. Okay. You've never done it. Or you could do, let's say you could only do 1 rep with 2 plates on both sides, 2 45-pound plates on both sides, doing bench pressing. Okay, let's say that you could only do 1 rep. Okay, so what do? You set it up for the negative eccentrics. So you just do the negative eccentric. You grab the weight at the top, and now you let it go down, either slowly or fast. But you try to let it go down slowly until it drops and it hits the blocks. Now somebody re-rack it for you. Either you go back and re-rack it, or somebody just keeps re-racking it for you, okay? So you can keep getting the negative. If you have friends in the gym, they can help you. They'll lift it, and then you lower it. They lift it, and you lower it. They lift it and you lower it. You just keep doing as many eccentric negatives as you can with those 2 plates. And I guarantee you, when you come in the second time, you're going to be a lot stronger doing that bench press. You're going to be able to rep them out. That's the difference. So you can actually lower heavier weight on the eccentric. You can lower heavier weight on the eccentric negative than you could rep out concentrically, because you didn't build any strength. You build the strength on the eccentric movement. That's a known fact. So if you want to go a lot faster, if you want to gain strength a lot faster, you don't have time, do eccentric negatives. Just like the pull-ups. You know pull-ups? Step up on a bench, and just keep doing the negatives on the pull-ups. Instead of pulling your body up, let your body lower slowly on the eccentric. Go back, step up again, and then lower your body. Step up, lower your body. Just keep doing the eccentric movements, and I guarantee you, your strength doing the concentric will increase exponentially like crazy. It's a known fact. This guy Pygmy did a video on it. Negative eccentrics. He was surprised how much his strength increased in just a couple days of doing negative eccentrics, okay?
Well, it'll let me train further away from true failure. Well, that might be it, but not really. Because when you look at most of the literature we have, taking a joint or a muscle through a fairly long range of motion and training very close to muscle failure seems to start to eliminate a lot of these other factors. In other words, things like eccentric reps, perfect joint angles, some of the lengthened position discussion, they're really dependent upon the fact that you may not be training that hard. In that case, it might be the case of, well, we want to gain as much muscle as possible without training hard. So we'll just do more volume. We'll focus on these slow eccentrics.
No, when you're training for volume and you're a trained athlete, I've done this before, 6 weeks of training, remember? It's associated with sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, okay? Man, these people training high volume, coming in, they're chronic lifting, they're adapted now to their exercise. So what type of gains do you get when you're adapted? Well, you're kind of an endurance athlete now. So you're getting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. That's an energy source ATP. So those gains are artificial, they're phony, they're fake.
But once you start doing really hard sets, a lot of
The
that
body's tricky according to your training. The body's tricky what it's going to give you. Can trick you, can fool you, can trick you. Yeah, you need to know what you're getting, man.
nuance goes away, doesn't it? Because it is mechanical tension and fatigue that create hypertrophy. This is what stimulates.
Mechanical tension and fatigue. No, fatigue doesn't do it, but mechanical tension is associated with muscle damage. There you go. Jesus.
Growth. Right? And mechanical tension,
It is associated with a repair and a remodeling. I don't know what you mean by growth. Repair and remodeling, yeah. That's density. You're adding density to the muscle fiber. Now, if you want mass, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown so you can build up these contractile proteins on the myofibrillar. If it doesn't exceed that breakdown, you're never going to see that mass. You will build up over time density, but that'll take such a long time to see that density. It'll take a long time. And then you're going to have to go through repeated bouts of these eccentric injuries, these eccentric micro injuries, which you're not doing because you're adapted to your exercises. So no more injuries, no more repair and remodeling. And you're not even getting mass on the myofibrillar because your protein synthesis is not exceeding that breakdown. Yeah, man. See what I mean?
increases through two ways. Either adding weight, putting a joint angle where the muscle gets more tension, so let's say the very bottom of a bench press, right? The very bottom of a curl, so on. In other words, when you place the muscle into a lengthened position, that oftentimes, depending on the movement, not always, increases tension on the muscle.
What? Man,
Anytime you add weight while using the same form, you increase tension on the muscle on a rep-for-rep basis. Training
that's kind of obvious. Hello.
closer to failure puts more tension on individual muscle fibers.
Oh, so go to failure, that will put more tension on the muscle fiber. When you're more focused on the concentric movement, it doesn't happen if you're in an adapted state. Get it? It only happens when your body's ready to create a new adaptation. It's not going to happen. It'll only happen if it's unfamiliar or unaccustomed to it. Remember, your body is protecting you from from getting these micro injuries to build more muscle. It is protective. It's a protective effect.
Okay? In other words, the harder you train on a set, the more tension gets put on each individual muscle fiber.
Okay, let's say that happens and you're adapted. And what? And what, Jason?
Because other fibers get fatigued and therefore the other ones have to take over.
They get fatigued and then the other ones have to take over. Let me explain to you. I think people don't even understand this. You have several type of muscle fibers in your body. There are numerous amounts of different types of muscle fibers. Why is that? I don't know. I can't explain it. Go ask your maker who made you, why he made you with all these several types of different types of muscle fibers. Me, personally, and this is just some facts and some belief, okay? When you go ice skating, this movement is unusual. It's an unusual adaptation. And so you get an adaptation ice skating. Your shins hurt. They get several of these micro injuries. Your shins, a bit of your legs and your ankles, they're weakened when you first skate, when you first go out there as a young person. You skate for a couple hours, you're all rambunctious. You skate with your friends 2-3 hours on the day, you go home, and then you're sore for a couple of days. But then you don't get that soreness no more. It repairs and remodels stronger. When you come back the second time, you're super strong and fast ice skating. Now, when you first go swimming, this is an unusual movement. The movements are unusual. You get really sore after you're rambunctious with your friends in the summertime ice skating. And you get this soreness, whatever. Even in martial arts, stretching, even playing soccer, you get it in whatever. When you run, you get this damage the first time too. You call it newbie gains. You get it in everything. But it's the movement, particular things that are getting this damage in there. It's hitting, I believe it's hitting different types of fiber types. A different type of fiber type is getting repaired and remodeled in there for that particular movement or whatever movement that you're doing, whether it's rock climbing, swimming, running, I don't know, man, cycling, whatever. I can't tell you. It just is like that. So they call them hybrids, this, that. There's small muscle fibers. When it comes to these old people, they're activated, these short muscle fibers or some bullshit. So there are numerous types of muscle fibers so they can adapt to whatever it is that you're doing out there. They adapt to that. But you are doing something very unusual, going to a gym, working every muscle fiber type, trying to eke out adaptations in a gym for cosmetic purposes and to look good, trying to lift a heavy weight, getting chemical adaptations. There are chemical adaptations. There are physical and chemical. There are all several types of adaptations. They're adapting for whatever reason to make you better at doing that sport, whatever it is. And then it doesn't want to give you any more adaptations, your body, because it's protecting you from building any more muscle.
That is really what we're looking at. That's why fatigue creates hypertrophy.
That's why,
right?
That's why I tried to tell people in running, you need to eke out more adaptations in running. So you want to do an inclination on a hill. I don't know. Run 90 degrees, 80, 70, 60, 40, 20, 30, whatever. Run these degrees like from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Run in these downhill motions get you the most adaptations because you've maxed them out going flat and fast. There's no more. So you need to get more adaptations. How do you get them? Running downhill. Yeah. Start with a short hill and keep working your way up so you can get as many adaptations as you can in running. These are important. You could go to the gym, but you're only going to get one adaptation in the gym. But you'll get more adaptations running as a speed runner, running down a hill in different inclinations until you max them out. And then you should be super, super fast.
Because it is forcing you to put more tension.
Here's another thing. Why would you jump up on a box when it's superior to jump down? No, a lot of people, they don't jump down. And parkour, whatever they call that, they're doing a lot of jumping down. They're not really jumping. They are jumping up somewhat, some positions, definitely. But the jumping down is giving them more force to jump up. You understand me? It's the jumping down that is going to give you more force to bounce back up high in the air.
Each individual muscle fiber has to take more weight because other ones get too tired to keep contracting, and you go to newer ones.
Remember, it's the gravity is pulling you down. So if gravity is pulling you down, why do people wear weighted vests? Because they know it'll expand them. They think it's going to give them more hypertrophy. They could be right. So jumping off a board down in the opposite direction against gravity, striking the ground, right, in an eccentric movement is going to give you more than jumping up in the air against gravity.
You get to everything. Okay, it is that tension placed on the muscle fiber that causes hypertrophy.
It is the tension on the muscle fiber that causes hypertrophy? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's the micro tears and the remodeling that can cause cause hypertrophy. And then if you want more hypertrophy, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. It's really simple.
All right. So when you start looking at it from that perspective, people will say, well, so how come your back got so big?
Your back did get big. You're suffering from kyphosis. That's how it got big. Tell all your viewers you have kyphosis.
Without caring about eccentrics at all, and I would make the case that because I did a heavy weight for a lot of reps.
He done a heavy weight for a lot of reps. That's why his back got big. I doubt that. It did. It got a lot of reps and it got big. But this guy's so full of shit. He eats shit food. Whatever.
I focus on progressive overload
Jason has never built any muscle. He's never built any muscle. Look at him. He suffers from sarcopenia.
and getting strong.
And he's on TRT and steroids. He's still on steroids and a bunch of stuff, bro, trying to impress you. And even that's not working for him.
At rep work.
Yeah.
Most of my back work is, up in the 6 to 12 rep range. Sometimes higher. I've done sets of 15 and stuff also.
Even if you do those sets, Jason, you are adapted. You got 0 adaptations.
But that's it. Doing hard, challenging sets like you watched this set here, pretty much this set was to failure. Right? I'm doing an underhand.
That set went to failure. It's all eccentric. It's not associated with muscle damage. What the fuck?
Row, Yates row with 225. Took it to failure.
What's it doing exactly? Okay, let's say it's fatiguing the muscle cells. Well, let's say it's fatiguing it or whatever. There's some swelling, maybe some fatiguing by doing the concentric. He's doing a lot of concentric. Okay. Now, how do you build up proteins on the myofibrillar? Protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. What does that mean to you? See?
Right? That will build a big back.
No, the weight will not build a big back. Only protein synthesis, if it exceeds that breakdown, then it can build up more contractile proteins and it will build that back. But if it doesn't, it's not going to build that back. And I doubt you're exceeding that breakdown, dude. I really doubt that with your tofu. Tofu's not exceeding that.
Very straightforward. Why would eccentrics even matter at that point? The only purpose.
Yeah, it's funny. You're listening to a guy telling you how to build muscle. Meanwhile, he has no chest, no arms, no shoulders, no nothing. Look at him. He's got nothing. This is how he really looks. He impresses you there in front of the camera because he knows the angles and the lighting. He knows probably here the lighting makes him look bad, but yet he's still showing you here. This is what he really looks like right there where he's sitting. A little guy. He's a little man with no chest, no body. He looks like a regular dude walking down the street in an extra small shirt, an Old Navy.
People are trying to do the slow eccentric is hoping to create more fatigue. But it creates more fatigue? Doing more reps, adding more weight to the bar, getting stronger at your rep.
They want to cause more fatigue? Why do you want to fatigue yourself? Listen, everybody knows that concentric exercises are associated with fatigue. You don't want to fatigue yourself. You want to get eccentric exercises, not concentric, and fatigue yourself. If I run up a building up the stairs, I'm going to fatigue the fuck out of myself, and I'm going to get nothing. I'll just be exhausted. But if I run down the stairs, it's associated with eccentric movements. I'm going to get something out of it, and I'm not going to be so fucking exhausted.
Work. That'll do it also. But again,
that's why eccentric movements are great for people that want to cause a thermogenic effect and lose body fat. That's about it. But it ain't associated with muscle damage.
That's work. Just slowing down to be eccentric isn't really work, is it? Not really. Not really working harder.
Whatever.
So again, it's one of those things that I really don't think actually matters at the end of the day. It really doesn't. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say.
It does matter. It does matter. Trust me. Everything matters. He's crazy. It doesn't matter to him because he's failed. He's already failed. And if you follow him, you'll fail along with him. I'll see you in the next video. Tell us what you think about that. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Friends, helps with the algorithm. If you like the videos, subscribe. If you didn't like it, don't subscribe if you didn't learn anything. If you like it, like the video if you learned something. If you didn't, then, well, I can't help you. I'm sorry. I hope that helped. See you in the next one. Ciao, friends. This guy's crazy, man. Negatives aren't that important. They're extremely important. Everything is important. So is the concentric movement because it's the starting point. It is definitely important. But eccentrics are the most important. See what I mean? They're the most important. See you later.